Welcome to our weekly discussion, Moral Side of the News. I'm Shawn Kaelin with the WHAS Crusade for Children. I'm joined today, as always, by a distinguished panel. Reverend David Harkleroad, South Point Church. Father Bill Hammer, St. Margaret Mary and St. William Catholic Churches. Reverend Harriett Akins-Banman, Centenary United Methodist Church. Rabbi Stan Miles, Louisville Melton School. And Reverend Clay Calloway, West Louisville Ministers Coalition. This past Tuesday, the Louisville men's basketball team ended their season with a loss to North Carolina State in the ACC Championship. This is what then Coach Kenny Payne had to say right after the loss.
After the Cards lost 94-85 to North Carolina State in the ACC tournament, I asked Kenny Payne about his future. With the season now over, have you been told anything about your future as head coach with the program?
No, I have not.
It may not be official, but Kenny Payne's time as Louisville's head coach may be nearing an end, even though it's clear he believes he deserves a third year.
When I walked into the program as the new head coach, I talked about I needed everybody on the same page. We sort of forgot that. I talked about how I'm not going to let you blame me. I'm not standing up here by myself. I need all of Louisville with me. We sort of forgot that. I talked about it's going to take time, and I'm going to watch and see who jumped on and off the Titanic. We sort of forgot that. I gave a specific time. I said 3 or 4 years, and I'm good with it. That's what I believed at that time, and that's what I still believe it takes to fix this program.
Tuesday night was also a moment when Payne got a few things off his chest.
I love Louisville. I played here. I won a national championship here. This is not a job for me. Contrary to those who criticize, I don't sleep at night thinking about my brothers, the former players that played here, who had no access to the program. Should not be talking about this right now, but I have to say this. These young men, to play in a program where there's so much scrutiny, is unfair to them. They deserve to play in a program where people are uplifting them to be better, not fighting and tearing them down to make them question how good they are. Then you make my job impossible.
It did affect me a little bit when I heard the fans boo us, our own fans, because I feel like we're, saying like 19, 20, 21-year-olds, and that's something I never experienced, and I didn't know why they were booing us. I thought we're college kids, you know what I'm saying, they're supposed to be there for us.
Payne believes in his 2 seasons, despite a 12-52 record, he's provided a foundation for the future.
Whether I'm the coach or not, I can look in the mirror and say I gave it everything I had to help this program.
So panel, I turn to you. We heard the coach. The next day he was fired. Was 2 seasons enough?
Well, I mean, basically, when he came in, he was said it would be 3 to 4 seasons. It's 2. And it's much more involved than just him. Winning is everything. We know that. I mean, it's called college athletics, but it's more professional athletics because there's money involved. Had it not been for the 1-loss record and the economic impact it had on the Yum Center and the surrounding areas, he would still be there. So it's all about the dollars. It's all about economics. And the program didn't get in this hole overnight. University of Louisville is at a predicament because of a moral issue, believe it or not, that goes back to Rick Pitino. His immorality, and because they didn't enforce a morals clause, but he clearly was just over the top, engaged in some illicit act in public, and then the scandals involving the program itself. I mean, we're in this predicament because of immorality, since it's the moral side of the news. Let's not forget that, as he said. So we got in this mess because of immorality, and it's going to take time to dig out of this immoral hole. He brought integrity. He brought a lot to the program. One thing he brought to the program, he brought a respect for the players and the parents. The parents loved him, and the players apparently had high respect for him. So, and then the win-losses, of course, was attributed to the injuries he had this year. Anytime you have 4 players out, it's no way in the world you can expect to perform at a high level with those type of injury numbers out on your team. University of Kentucky had Wagner out for a couple of games they lost with just one player. And you have 4 players out over an extended period of time. He was still in the games. He wasn't getting blown out. So I'm saying, so there's a lot of factors involved, variables involved. But let's not forget that University of Louisville is in this predicament because of a moral issue of the coaching staff. And he didn't bring any of that to the table. He brought integrity. He brought a good relationship to the players and the parents. And you know, it's just about the money. He's going to leave a lot better off financially than he was when he came. So that's a good thing. But let's not forget that he did bring some virtue to the program that didn't exist before.
I think that the point that you make, Clay, is so valid, because whether one-loss record aside, I think he's still a beloved figure in the community. And I think that what he did for the program, as you said, won't be visible for 3 or 4 years, and it doesn't have anything to do with winning and losing. It's how to do with the way people view the University of Louisville men's basketball team as an entity.
Well, I think you're touching on a big piece. It's a brand. And that's part of why he got let go. It's unfortunate. It's big money. We've talked about that, and it's a big brand. And it's why they have these golden parachutes, Stan, as you were saying at the beginning. So he knew that there was going to be a limited amount of time. It sounds like he asked for more. But just based on that video, what's really unfortunate is for the kids. You know, these young people playing the game, that's kind of part of his career field. But as they get into college athletics, it's a difficult space to be growing up in.
You know, on that line, we're talking about, you know, coaching college athletes, but I think the game has changed so much in the last few years. Are they really not criticizing the students? This is the opportunity they have at this time in their life. But again, the de-emphasis of getting the degrees, the more important is getting yourself ready. And that's true across the board. I'm not talking about athletics. It's not important to get a BA or a BS anymore. You got to get out there, get yourself ready for the workforce. And so, in a certain sense, part of what I see is happening here is, again, the economics of it all. We've talked about that. And yes, he's going to be financially very well off as he leaves, but that is part of the package. The student athletes are going to be much more financially better off after they leave too, with or without a degree. You know, with or without finishing the tasks they started with. And so that's one of the struggles I think that I have is we were talking about, I am a U of L fan. While we're talking about that, I support them anytime they play against another team. So it's a case where trying to find that loyalty to who they are and the history, and this truly, I hope and believe, is a small little dip in that process that's going on to the future.
I want to go back to some comments that Clay made. I'm wondering, because I don't really follow basketball, does the coach then become the scapegoat? And what happens to that bigger question of morality and ethics and right behavior? Does it get, that's part of the history of the team now, does it get swept under the rug a little further? Or is it ever dealt with so that the students that are playing ball come out not only better players, but they come out better men?
Better men.
So where is that piece?
It's a good point, and I think that we really miss a lot here. I think it's a great opportunity to rethink everything, including the AD, the whole program. Louisville was one of the most financially prosperous programs in the nation, but it was prosperous because of the players on the field and on the courts. They were the commodity. They were not coming to see the coach. They were coming to see the performance of the players on the field and on the courts. So we need to keep the main thing the main thing. And in a sport that is operated, regulated by rules and regulation. We had referees out there with whistles. We have boundaries on the court. We have rules and regulations. So if you don't play by the rules, then you undermine the integrity of the game. No, Jesse Jackson years ago, he was talking about how he was liking athletics, why so many African American players excel in athletics in basketball and football. He basically said the reason they excel is because the playing field is level and the rules are public. When the playing fields are level and the rules are public, then they tend to have an opportunity to perform. So, but when you have hidden rules and unwritten rules that you enforce and don't enforce, then it throws the whole game off. Again, going back to the issue of the immorality of the coaches in the previous iterations, the Patinos and Bobby Petrinos of the world, they brought less than moral integrity to the game. That they were not good examples. They didn't play by the rules themselves, and yet you expect the players to be young men of virtue when the players themselves, the staff themselves, are not persons of virtue themselves. So you have to really start from the top to the bottom, or the bottom to the top, depending on how you look at it, to rethink the program. That was the intent of this hire. He had an impeccable coaching staff. He had probably the all-star coaching staff he've ever had. Had Nolan Smith, you had Danny Manning, you had Milt Wagner. He had an all-star coaching staff there. Again, it was scandal-free. But still, I think you need to rethink the morality of the program. Winning is a lot, but it's not everything. One thing I've noticed about coaching, most coaches, they tend to have a different language. I mean, they don't speak in PG language like we accustomed to. They have a different language, either X and maybe an R-rated language when they're in a coaching situation. You know, the Bobby Knights of the world, the Bobby Petrinos of the world, Bobby Pitino's. I mean, Rick Pitino's, I've heard he could get really colorful in his language. And that tends to be the order of the day nowadays. I mean, Denny Crum was not like that. He came from the wooden era. They would have had more decorum and respect. But most of the coaches, they tend to have a very colorful, salty language that tends to, would offend most respectable persons in normal society. So it's sad to say that may be the kind of thing that motivates now, but I think it's an opportunity to rethink the whole program from top to bottom, and involving students. I mean, one thing they don't have there at the Youngstown, have too many old people in the stands. Not nothing wrong with the old people, but you have the students come down and be painted.
Only old people can afford
it.
U of L season tickets. Yeah. Remember, it's not just buying a season ticket to a game. Yeah. It's making a significant donation to the university to have the right to purchase the ticket.
Right. Well, that would be true for young families. That's not the case for students. There is a student ticket.
Yeah, but you don't see them around the arena.
On the lower area.
They're on a little small, little small section. But you need to have some kids around there painted in different colors, looking all, I mean, with red hair and just looking like, give us some energy.
Like the indoor stadium.
Absolutely.
It remains certainly one of my concerns going forward, too, as it does in any organization or group, is that when the leader of a congregation changes, well, then that impacts the whole congregation. When the leader of a school changes, it impacts all the students. A teacher changes. And so we are going to have a change in coaches. And be attentive to what that means for these athletes and these students going forward, too, that we are keeping them first and foremost and going forward. So to the media, but also to the fans. Let's find ways to let the athletes know across the sports. Some of the other sports are struggling too a little bit this year, and to find ways to be supportive of them and to be true fans. Yes.
Very good discussion. Thank you. Thanks for watching and listening to the Moral Side of the News. Let's move on to topic number 2. This week, the House approved legislation dubbed the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act. In other words, we want to ban TikTok. Let's take a look.
Tonight, the House overwhelmingly voting to ban TikTok, the wildly popular social media app, unless it's sold by its Chinese parent company ByteDance. Lawmakers responding to concerns TikTok poses a national security threat and compromises the data of its 170 million American users.
This bill therefore forces TikTok to break up with the Chinese Communist Party.
This is not an attempt to ban TikTok. It's an attempt to make TikTok better. Tic-tac-toe, a winner. A winner.
The FBI and top intelligence officials sounding the alarm, warning the Chinese government could use TikTok to access Americans' personal information.
The problem is their ability to manipulate you. They already manipulate your algorithm based on what you like. And that can be innocent. All social media companies do that to try and tailor your feed. But it's a problem when the person in charge, or the entity in charge of manipulating, can be an adversary like the Chinese Communist Party.
TikTok denies those allegations, but lawmakers now warning TikTok could interfere in the election.
The risk in terms of propaganda, the risk to influence our election are just too severe.
In China, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube are banned completely, and the version of TikTok available over there is much different from what we get here. Listen to how a former Google executive described what kids see on the Chinese version of TikTok in an interview with 60 Minutes.
They show you science experiments you can do at home, museum exhibits, patriotism videos, and educational videos. And they make their domestic version a spinach version of TikTok, while they ship the opium version to the rest of the world.
TikTok pushing back hard, a fierce lobbying effort on Capitol Hill. Online, users enraged.
I'm like literally shaking thinking about the possibility of this.
Have there been talks about this before? Sure. This time, it's serious.
We spoke with Brandon Hurst, who uses TikTok to promote his plant business.
My whole business would be devastated. Yeah, I would lose the opportunity to connect with millions of people on a regular basis, and the community that I've worked really hard to build would be gone.
How much of your sales are driven from TikTok?
100%.
President Biden recently launched his own campaign, TikTok, to meet young voters where they are. But he says if this bill lands on his desk, he will sign it.
If they pass it, I'll sign it.
So panel, I turn to you. It heads to the Senate now, and from there, TikTok could be banned.
Okay. First of all, I'm a little disturbed with any corporation that is controlled by a foreign political entity, whatever that foreign political entity is, being able to influence our society, our lives, and especially our elections. I don't buy what the plant seller said either, because I don't do social media. Full disclosure. But I've got to believe that there's more than one platform called TikTok that people can access for their social media. It's pretty terrifying, and I understand the need to do this. The irony is, if this passes, we will see organizations in the United States, organizations like the American Civil Liberties Union, who are going to go on this, as we say in Kentucky, like a duck on a June bug. First Amendment rights. Well, my question is, are First Amendment rights for Americans, or are they for anyone who happens to do business in the United States, even though they might be a political entity that is of cross purpose with the needs of the United States of America?
It is such a complex issue, and I think that's evident in the fact of how it's not just a partisan issue. I mean, this is clearly a problem, and I think you're touching on it, Stan, around the bigger debate around social media platforms is it a First Amendment issue or is it a public utility? And really, it's 6 1, half dozen the other. There's a foot in both camps, and so it's a very confusing time. I think I would personally lean toward we need to limit those foreign entities in our country, limit how much access control they have. And I believe one of the options was for them to sell the U.S. part of TikTok to a U.S.-based company. Yep. So I think there's options that would be different than just shutting it down completely. But it is very complex, but I do think we need to do something about it.
I find the timing interesting because it seems very reactive to me. with the election season coming up? Because this is not the first time we've heard the TikTok story and what do we need to do about this entity. So I'm wondering, is it the reactivity that is pushing this, or is it the concern behind it, the concern that has been behind it all along, being another country with whom we have not always been the best of neighbors and the best of friends? Yeah, it's complex, and the timing I just find interesting.
One of the things that I appreciate about the debate that's going on, not among us necessarily, but just at the national level, is that I think it should call into question a lot of different companies that are out there doing this and how they use artificial intelligence, AI, in their marketing, but also in their influencing. And a lot of companies are doing that. And how many times, I've joked with other friends about, I might be asking a question to my phone or to my computer, whatever, and all of a sudden things start popping up related to that, but not directly. It's not what I was asking. And so there is ways in which I'm already kind of being influenced. There's lots of times when I go out on the internet searching for something, and they want to know where I am. And I refuse to give my location because I know it's going to start feeding me certain kinds of things in my location. So not just TikTok, but I think it is an important discussion needs to go on, and the way that it does, in fact, influence a lot of people and affecting addictions, addictive personalities, and things like that flow from this. So it is an important discussion to be having, and not just targeting TikTok, but also across the board. What's going on? What's going on?
I think one thing that makes this unique, we have consensus that's extremely rare.
Yes.
I don't know if it's the end time, I don't know if Jesus is coming back soon, but anytime you have consensus, then that's enough to pause and give attention to. So when both sides agree on this issue, I think that's a rare occasion of significance and noteworthiness. So I think that's noteworthy. Of course, we have enough domestic owners who can engage in enough mischief. The owners of Twitter and Facebook and so forth have been accused of being involved with mischief in their own right. Even major TV networks have been accused of forms of nefarious activity. So it doesn't have to be a foreign entity to be engaged in some mischief in the nation. So, but I think on this occasion, because there's some rare consensus, I think it's worthy of note. And I think that it could be a relatively simple fix. You can break it up and make it domestic, but that doesn't always guarantee there's going to be something going to be in the best interest of the citizens of America.
And some of the influences are coming from other countries too as well. I mean, it's been very publicly noted the influences sometimes that Russia has in trying to influence what's going on in our country through social media, or other countries as well trying to influence us to their benefit. That's the reason I'm trying to influence. It's the way a company tries to influence me. It's to the benefit of the company. I want to purchase that now because I've seen this and they got me all fired up about this. And so it's always to influence me in a direction. And I'm open to that. I mean, there's things that I need to know about. I want to know about.
Now, they do have a different kind of regulation. I was in China a few years ago. The internet and all the things that we take for granted over here is different. It's
Very much so,
regulated
yes.
drastically different.
Yes.
You can't even Google things over there as you can here. You can't, I mean, just a lot of things they regulate there in a way that they don't over here. So I think some good can come from that. That could be some reason, it could be a cause for censorship, but they do practice a level of regulation in China in ways they don't do in the United States.
One of the most dangerous things about this was just glossed over in that video when the gentleman said they're giving the youth in China basically the spinach version and we're getting the opiate version. That may be more concerning to me than China's general influence, to think about the fact that dumbing down of our youth. I mean, I don't know the demographics or stats on this, but I would guess there's a younger group that trends toward being on TikTok, maybe 30 and under or something, and we are feeding a lot of stuff that's just not valuable and maybe even not helpful. It's moving the opposite direction. So I think that's in many ways possibly the most concerning thing that doesn't seem to be getting much attention.
And the constitutional question is overriding. The question is, for whom does this amendment exist? Does it exist for individual citizens? Does it exist for corporations? Does it exist for any entity that happens to do business within the boundaries of the United States of America? And that question has to be answered.
Well, we've said, at least I think repeatedly, the First Amendment doesn't guarantee all speech.
No.
Like I can't perjure myself as an expression of free speech. That I could do that, but I can't say that. Well, I can say anything I want anytime I want. That there are limits to what you can say, perjury, liability, libel, or things like that. So there are consequences for speech that has wrong, evil qualities to it. And so I think we've always limited, free speech in a certain way. But what the limits are, that's the harder part to say down. Well, it's my opinion. Well, that's different than maybe something totally wrong or false. So.
Very good. Well, briefly, we have like a minute and a half left. Kentucky's the 6th most polite state in the country. Who would have known by a new study? Sorry, David and Harriet. Indiana was 32nd. But the criteria is based on saying please and thank you and opening the door for others.
What is being voted miscongeniality worth when our policy can be the most reprobate and cruel. So it's nice, but it's a relative value.
Well, David and I are in Indiana on the sunny side of the river, giving everybody instruction there on please and thank you. And I just want to say, Kentuckians, you drive like bats out of hell. Yeah. And I'm not so sure that is
because
friendly.
We are in hell. It's hell here.
Yes, indeed. Well, thank you all. We recognize. We want to thank whatever that survey company was. We thank them.
Hey, the ministers on this side of the river are doing a great job.
How pleased we are. Yes, how pleased we are, and how thankful we are, as by nature, just by nature, who we are.
I only kid Harriet and David.
Kentucky is a really congenial state, just kind, and I can see it.
The Southern hospitality may be working its way up to the river.
Yeah.
But that's the least they can offer.
Yes, that's right. Well, we are a border state, so we have to, walk that line. Yes, north and
I grew
south.
up in Kentucky, so I'm taking it.
Oh, you brought it over, yes.
Yeah, I'm taking it.
We'll take the Kentuckiana label.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, we rank like 12th or 13th.
And to think, we'd always commented about Indiana drivers.
Yes. I've been known to do that. Yes,
and I used to be an Indiana driver, so I can say that.
Well, thank you very much. Another great discussion this week. Thank you to our ministers, Reverend David Harkleroad, South Point Church, Father Bill Hammer, St. Margaret Mary and St. William Catholic Churches, Reverend Harriett Akins-Banman, Centenary United Methodist Church, Rabbi Stan Miles, Louisville Melton School, and Reverend Clay Calloway with the West Louisville Ministers Coalition. Thanks for joining us this week. Happy St. Patrick's Day, and have a good week. Thank you.